Real quick, just a reminder to check out my movie channel. The link is in the description. I have videos on there about the new Alex Garland movie, Civil War. I have a Dune 2 review. I have, some tier list of guys like Christopher Nolan and David Fincher, and Alex Garland tier list is coming up. So be on the lookout for all that. Again, link is in the description, but back to your regularly scheduled video. All right, let's revisit the Stefon Diggs trade. So a lot of people kind of talk about this trade as though it was like a 1-for-1. They traded Diggs for the first round pick, but that's actually not the case at all. This is actually a bit more of a complex trade than I think people remember. So it could be an interesting way to revisit it now that we have, more time has passed. Now that Diggs has been traded again. So obviously the Diggs trade I'm talking about is when he got traded from the Vikings to the Bills. Let's just get into it. So this was the trade itself. So the Bills got Diggs along with a 7th round pick, and there were actually 4 picks that got sent back to Minnesota. It was a 2020 first round pick, that's the one everyone remembers, but there was also a 2025, a 2026, and a 2021 4th round pick. So, a lot of things to go over. First, let's take it from the Bills' perspective. Who did they get with their 7th round pick? They ended up selecting Dane Jackson. So this is what the actual value back for the Bills was. Neither of these players no longer on the Bills, but they did get 4 years of all right corner play. Like for a 7th round pick, Dane Jackson certainly did a lot more than your average 7th round pick does. For example, he recently signed a deal with the Carolina Panthers for 2 years, $14 million total, $7.5 million a year. So, again, for a 7th round pick, more value than your average 7th round pick. And of course, there's Diggs. Now, what did the Vikings get? These were the 4 picks again. The 2020 first was used to select Justin Jefferson, which, that's usually a pretty good trade when you trade for, you trade away a receiver and end up getting a better receiver back, who now, you get for 4 years without having to pay a big deal on because you have the rookie contract, and really, you get the 5 years because you get the 5th year option, even if that's a little bit more money than the average rookie deal is. It's at least less than Jefferson's going to get on the open market. So you get Justin Jefferson, again, already a win at this point, basically. But they traded away the 5th and 6th round picks as well. They also selected Janarius Robinson with the 2021 4th round pick. Well, what did they do with the other picks then? So they traded the 2025th rounder. What happened? That was actually kind of a weird trade. So they traded with the Bears, who wanted Travis Gibson, and they got a 2021 4th rounder back. So they traded a 5th rounder for a 4th rounder straight up, which is a bit of a weird move, but it was for in a future year, the Vikings would select Cameron Bynum with that selection. And then the 2026 was actually used to select James Prochet from the Ravens used it. And the Ravens, in this trade, to make this work, also got Geno Stone. So an interesting kind of wrinkle there. Geno Stone ended up being a really good safety last year, signed a solid deal with the Bengals this past offseason, whereas the Bills, the Vikings got Kenny Wilkes and Zach Davidson. So this is the trade from the Vikings' perspective. The Justin Jefferson is really it. There's some other pieces here, but really it's Justin Jefferson plus $20 million in cap space. That's around what Diggs got with his new deal that he signed with the Bills. They lose Diggs, also Dane Jackson. Travis Gibson has been a player, not a star one, but a player. And even Geno Stone is someone who is a good player. So they gave up a decent amount for it. They did, but you gotta just think like Justin Jefferson's been awesome for them. And this is a trade that a lot of people view it as, well, this is a win-win. Well, first, from the Vikings' perspective, is that true? The answer is absolutely yes. They got a cornerstone piece of a franchise for a guy in Diggs who, keep in mind, Diggs was kind of he had a couple of 1,000-yard seasons when they traded him. He was not, I think, viewed the same way he's viewed now. He immediately, once going to Buffalo, had a 1,500-yard year. He was able to kind of really turn into the Diggs that we know once he was able to kind of, get to Buffalo. So because of that, I think that it's fair to say that this was definitely a pretty, huge win for the, Vikings. Now, from the Bills' perspective, well, first we have to say this isn't over. The trade tree isn't over. The Bills would go on to trade Stefon Diggs, so they received a 2025 second. The Bills also got rid of a 2024 sixth and fifth, so in a couple of years, even next year, I won't be able to finish this fully. I'll have to wait another year, but, I thought it would still be worth discussing now, but that is a big part of how this works. So, okay, that's the full trade details. For the Bills, they received 4 years of Stefon Diggs, along with 4 years of Dane Jackson, and a 2025 second for Justin Jefferson, Janorius Robinson, Travis Gibson, James Prochet, $20 million in cap space, a 2024 sixth, and a 2025 fifth. That's a bit. They gave up a bit. There's no denying that. This was, on paper, this was a loss. Without a doubt, on paper, this was a loss. Justin Jefferson has been a better receiver than Diggs, and he's a lot younger. So, yes, this is a loss. But let's talk about process a little bit. Let's use a hypothetical situation to kind of make our point right here. So, let's just say, for example, you get a superstar player and, you only trade a third-round pick for the guy. Okay, great situation. You clearly won to trade. However, that third-round pick ends up being a future Hall of Fame quarterback. Does that now mean that you lost the trade? Yes, it does mean you lost a trade. Like, you gave up a pick that ended up being used for a much more valuable player than what you ended up, receiving. However, does that mean that you made a dumb decision? Well, no, of course not. Same thing where, like, if you decide to sell your house because you get a ton of money, and then it turns out, a year later you find out that there was gold buried underneath the house, and you could have made way more money. Still doesn't mean you made a dumb decision. It just means that, you got a bad break, or, really the person you made a deal with ended up getting a good break. That's kind of how I view this. I think in general, because one thing that I can't believe I haven't brought up yet, but it's an obvious point, is I don't know if Josh Allen is Josh Allen without having a good receiver to throw to. I think he kind of needed a great receiver to kind of really fully get his game going. And maybe he still would have been Josh Allen, because I think he did a lot of like mechanical fixes with his game, like throwing motion fixes that I think changed a lot, and that could have happened without Diggs, of course. It's unfair to say he wouldn't have been great if Diggs never went there. But I think for the Bills, they needed to get a number one receiver. And I think trading a first-round pick to make that happen was a good move. Because, like, we can easily sit here and say, well, imagine them with Justin Jefferson, how good things would be. True, but imagine them with Jalen Reagor and how bad things would have been, right? Because Jalen Reagor went a pick before Jefferson, famously. Well, what if the Eagles selected Jefferson, the Bills stayed pat and ended up with Reagor? Well, then this trade doesn't look as good, For the Vikings, if they ended up with Jalen Reagor instead of Justin Jefferson, well, then, this looks like a horrible trade from their perspective. So, long story short, if you get a superstar, potential Hall of Fame level talent with the, in the draft, with the pick you got, usually a good move. Doesn't always work out that way, though. So I think it was a good move by the Bills to make the trade, and it was a great job by the Vikings to select Justin Jefferson, and still a fine move trade-wise anyway, I think. But, yeah, that's what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And, of course, as always, thanks for watching.